Hey, this is Beverly Bozeman, and welcome to another episode of About Her Ministry. And today I have as a very special guest, Prophetess Natisha Wilson, and she is a member of the Lighthouse Apostolic Ministries in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you so much for stopping by, and welcome to the show, Prophetess.
Yes, I'm so excited. I am so excited to be here today. I'm telling you, I'm over the moon.
Good. I am so glad. We are just going to have a good time. And you guys are really in for a treat. And she is an awesome woman of God. And we have had several chats. And the information that she's going to share is from the heart. And she's real deal Holyfield. So you guys are just definitely in for a treat. So the first question, I guess it's really not a question, but it's a statement. And you just finish this sentence for me. Most people would say that a prophetess hears from God and
is his mouthpiece.
Is his mouthpiece.
Definitely his mouthpiece.
I love it. How difficult would you say it is to be God's mouthpiece for you?
Whew. Well, what I will say is, now that I'm older and I have walked in the call, I find it not as hard. Mm-hmm. I find myself a willing vessel, able to submit to the call. In the beginning, I ran from it. In the beginning, it was difficult, especially when God would have you to say rebukes, corrections, things like that. People don't want to see a prophet coming when they always got to say, God say, get your house together, get your house in order. Or I remember one time God had used me to prophesy and to an older lady, and God was telling her that death is all around her. Those things, yes, those things are what, when I was younger, God, is this really you? Do you want me to say this? Where the good stuff at? But now that I'm older, it flows. I've learned to submit my will and let God just be God. Mm-hmm. If God speak it, he meant it.
That's right. So you got to say it regardless.
I got to say it regardless.
Okay. So since you have had time to kind of walk with God as far as your calling, but it was a struggle at first, I'm pretty sure that you have some pearls of wisdom or some advice to share with a woman who is being called to be a prophetess, but she's kind of struggling with it like you did. So what kind of advice would you give?
I would first and foremost say to definitely pray, seek the face of God and fast so you can hear God and not yourself. Because, sometimes we'll talk ourselves out of something. Nah, that God ain't really calling me. Look who I am. And that's where I found myself. Look where I'm at. My mother and father was divorced, and I'm just this overweight person and kid. And I just downplayed who God said I was. And I would definitely tell that woman, don't run. Say yes. Step into the unknown. Embrace the call. Let God use you. That's something I say all the time. Let God use you. Just let God have free form with you. And know that God's intentions to you are pure. He is not to harm you. It's not to hurt you. But when you step into that role and when you step into the call, or when you say yes and no longer running, things in your life begin to flow. They begin to flow in order, the way that they were meant to be. And purpose begins to take place. I really feel that when we run and when we make excuses and when we downplay who we are in God, our life comes to a halt in the spiritual realm. Right. And the blessings that God has for us and the manifestation of things that we have prayed for, I really feel like we do not see the true manifestation. Not saying that God don't bless, but the things that God intended for us, we put a hold on in ourselves. But I would definitely say yield. Mm-hmm. Yield your heart, yield your mind. Don't run, no excuses. Just submit. Just yield yourself.
Yeah, that's good advice, because you have walked it out.
Yes.
So right. For yourself, it's like kind of the longer you wait, the worse off it'll be for you.
Yes.
There's some type of punishment that comes along with being disobedient.
Oh, and that's what it ends up being. And that's what it was for me. Because in the beginning, when I did run and I was hesitant and I wasn't sure, and it was all still new to me, God did pat me up like a father, like, it's okay, you learn of me and walk with me, trust me. He was wooing me in the spirit.
Right.
But then as time would go on and God would use me to prophesy and to operate in that gift, and then I will pull back. Like, nah, that's too much. Now I'm starting to go through. Now things like these you waking me up at 3:00 in the morning, telling me to pray or to call somebody and tell them what thus said the Lord. And I was like, well, wait a minute. And after a while, God was like, oh, I'm paraphrasing. God was like, oh, so you can't keep hiding behind fear. You can't keep making excuses. So now you're just being disobedient. It's no longer in an innocence. You get what I'm saying? It's now you're deliberately not obeying me. And that chastisement was no joke. It seemed like I could not find sleep. God, like, you ain't fit to sleep. You don't want to get up 3:00 in the morning and pray. You ain't gonna find sleep. You ain't gonna call him. I remember God woke me up at 2 a.m. and he said, he had once told me, you didn't say what I told you to say. And I was like, but I was I was like, God, I wasn't sure this, you wanted me to say something to the pastor. You wanted me to say this. And God was like, you didn't say what I want you to say. And ever since I was a young kid, I was what people call a scribe. I would write things down as God speak to me, literally as it flowed, just writing. And God literally spoke the prophetic word that he had me to say and the people names. And I called it. I got up. I called everybody the next morning and I told my pastor, I told my bishop, please forgive me for not being obedient to God. God told me I should have said this in service yesterday. And this is what he said. And I let everybody know. And from that point on, God get to whooping you enough, he'll get your attention.
Yeah.
So
how did they receive what it was that you had to say?
Most of the things were, and you know what, ironically, most of the things were good things. It was one message where God had me to speak to one of the women about their relationship, and they kind of was taken back from it, but they weren't surprised.
Right.
I mean, I really believe that God prepared them for the word, that obviously they had to know that God was coming down their street, because I really feel like prophetically, God don't just speak something through a prophet and you just caught off guard and you don't know where it came from. Just like when Jesus told the woman at the well, you got this your fifth husband and the one you with now is not yours. Yeah. She was surprised that he called her out, but she knew the real deal. And so they were caught off guard, but they received it. Wow. They received it. Good. And I've learned, like, I don't want to get whooped by God no more. I don't want to fall in the hands of an angry God. That's what we grew up hearing in the church. It's dangerous to fall in the hands of an angry God. And being disobedient, after a while, God did not give us the spirit of fear, and we have to let it go. Yeah. I always think of it as free falling, skydiving, jump from that plane and just going. And that's what it is with God. But God is the parachute, whether you see it or not. And I definitely feel that I just can't take the chance anymore. I'm gonna say what God tells me to say.
That's right. Like you said, you get whooped enough by God, you'll do right.
Yeah, you will do right.
Do right. So how did your family accept the fact that you were being called to be a prophetess? Your family and your friends?
Well, my friends pretty much accepted it. I've always walked upright, even amongst my friends, even those co-workers that I had. They just figured it. You know what I'm saying? Like, not necessarily the title itself, but even on my job, they used to call me pastor. I'm not a pastor, but because I stick to the word, because I excuse myself from the table, or they'll catch me reading my Bible, it was something that they knew. And they accepted it. They respected it. My family, I grew up in the church. So I have a lot of pastors, other prophets, prophetess in my family, a plethora of different titles. But my personal family, like my immediate family, they understood it. And there have been times where God had me to speak a word prophetically to my husband, to my sister, my only sibling, to my mother before she passed, to, to different family members, either other family members that are prophets. And they receive it. I mean, because being that we grew up in church, it's not something that they know my character, and they know my lifestyle, and they know what I'm saying is of God. And like we were saying earlier, it's nothing that God's going to say that's just going to catch you off guard that you're not aware of. If God tell you need to start praying, you need to get your prayer life together because you're slipping, you already know that you're slipping.
That's right.
It's just God called you out of it.
That's right.
So they have, and one thing I always come to my family with is that when God used me to speak to them, I always let them know I'm speaking to you as Minister Tish or Prophetess Wilson, Prophetess Tish, and not sister, not wife, not niece, not cousin. I'm talking to you as a woman of God. And when I say that, they can separate the two, and they respect it. I thank God for that.
Would you say that you have had the opportunity to prophesy to another prophet or prophetess that you were not related to?
Yes, I have.
How did that work?
You know what? Ironically, the Spirit of God just confirmed everything, and it flowed. It flowed beautifully in the presence of God. And I say that because it was my our senior pastor, and she's a prophet as well. And it was some things that she had been dealing with. And it's one thing, her and I have a Jonathan David kind of relationship. But there are times, she's busy with her things and I'm busy with my things. But there have been occasions where in the middle of service where God will have me speak to her. Oh, wow. It was the family things that she had dealt with, and God had me to speak to her. And like seeing the reaction, or it was confirming things that she had not told me, things she may have not told. I don't know if she told the bishop, her husband, but it's things that she have not told me. And I seeing how she reacted let me know that God had confirmed things that she was praying for. So as far as people that are not family, it flowed beautifully. It really did. The prophet took it and walked in it. Whether it 99.9999, it was not any rebuke or anything like that. But so it was definitely prophetic from God, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's just I love seeing how the presence of God come in and confirm what it is we've been praying for, what we've been seeking, the secrets of our heart, the issues of our heart, and seeing that soul found. It's like they saying, "Finally, God, you speaking to me. You finally hear me out," or "Okay, God hears me." And seeing that. So it was beautiful. It definitely was beautiful.
That's good. I love that, because I think everybody has a burning question that they're waiting for an answer from God. Yes, and sometimes, we're fortunate enough to have him speak audibly, or have the Holy Spirit speak audibly. And then sometimes it's that inner knowing, but having it confirmed through somebody that is in a position where their word can be trusted, because they're going to speak what thus says the Lord. That's awesome. I love that. That's so dynamite.
It was beautiful. It definitely was beautiful.
Good. So my next question is, what's the best advice that you have received as a prophetess?
One word, and I'll be honest, speak. Speak. Because a lot of times I'm not gonna say always, but a lot of times, being that a lot of the prophets that I'm around, or I know of, or I associate with, they are older than I am. They are older than I am, and they have been in God longer than I have. Mm-hmm. And sometimes my age makes me feel like I'm not adequate enough. I say it like that. Mm-hmm. When I come into the room with the big dogs. Right. And so one word that I've heard another prophet tell me, we were praying on the phone. We was having intercessory prayer. And God had been dealing with me for at least a week or so. I'm talking about waking me out of my sleep, having me write stuff down, making me wake up and pray, mm-hmm. showing me visions. But I only person I had told at that point was my sister. And she would say, you know, God is really dealing with you. You need to let God use you. You know, you got to be obedient. And I was like, nah, I ain't gonna say that, because God, this gonna come down some people's street. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't good stuff. It was like, it was God rebuking. And when I spoke on the phone, when I was praying with me and the other prophet was praying, and we would just have intercessory prayer for just our families and things that the families was going through. It was during the pandemic. And the prophet said one word. And she said, speak. God say, speak. And I was still in the flow of intercessory prayer. I'm like, I'm so caught up in the prayer. I'm like, the word stood out by itself in the midst of hearing the tongues and everything. And I'm just steady going. And she said, God say, speak. And I knew right then at that moment, her and I had never had a prophetic encounter. We always had intercessory encounters, and mm-hmm. Just praying with each other and laughing, talking, things like that. But when she said that, it confirmed that God was saying what was in my spirit had to come out. Mm-hmm. And that's that one word that I would say, speak. That one word is the game changer, because once you speak, whatever comes out cannot be taken back. That's right. It is released. It's in the atmosphere. That's right. It is going to go forth. Mm-hmm. Whether we receive it or whether we don't, it's going to go forth. And just that activity of speaking, that action of speaking is powerful. Yeah. Because words have life. Words can bring death. Words are powerful. They are more than just actual words. So that one word, speak. That one word. Yeah. That one word. That one word. When you hear God say speak, whew, okay, God. Yes, God.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. And you wouldn't think that one word would be so powerful.
Yes, it is. It is.
I love that. That's just awesome. Describe to us your most memorable sermon.
My trial sermon. Well, one of them was trial. Well, I say my trial sermon and a sermon. Let me be honest. I'll never forget my trial sermon, but that was under the influence. Mm-hmm. But one sermon that I preached had to be about maybe 10 years ago. Win or lose, winners take all. Mm-hmm. And it came from, I want to say, what was it? I want to say it came from Chronicles or Judges. I can't remember, but I definitely remember the topic: win or lose, winners take all. And it was most memorable because God was encouraging the people of God that whether we win or lose, we always win, regardless of what it looked like, regardless of what we feel, regardless of what the perception is. We always win. We always come out on top. We never lose. Even when it looked like we're losing, we are still winning. Mm-hmm. And that was God encouraging the people of God that shift your perspective. Mm-hmm. Know that the ball is in your court. Mm-hmm. Know that you're going to recover all. Having done all to stand, keep standing. And like it's one of those sermons that definitely always comes back to my mind, that don't get caught up in what it looked like. Don't get caught up on where you at right now, especially in some things that, we go through life and we feel like we 10 steps back instead of 10 steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel like I lost time and I was stuck this long and, I was dealing with this and I lost some connections and some doors that opened that I should have went through and I missed those doors. And God's like, nah, because at the end of the day, you still gonna win. You still gonna come out on top. And the one thing in the sermon that God had me to preach was about David, how the people wanted to stone David because they had been ravaged by the Philistines, and they had lost some things. That Philistines had came in, took the people things, long story short. But David went in and prayed and asked God, should we recover? Should we pursue? Mm-hmm. And God told him, yes, you pursue and you're going to recover all. And that's one thing that sticks with me, mm-hmm. that at the end of the day, I don't care what it looked like. I don't care how much you gave up. I don't care what the bank account looks like. I don't care where you at in ministry right now. You are going to recover all, win or lose. Winners take all. We are winners. We are natural born winners. We are natural born conquerors. Mm-hmm. So that is one sermon that it sticks with me. I may not remember every single scripture part of it, but I tell you, when God spoke that, it hit home first. Mm-hmm. It definitely hit home first.
That's awesome. Because we definitely need to be able to keep in mind that no matter what comes, no matter what it looks like, we're going to win. And the winning doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes the winning is in the lesson or it's in the process.
Yes.
When we think of winning, I guess I'm speaking for me. When I think of winning, I'm thinking finishing the finish line before everybody and hands up at the end. I won. Yep. But sometimes it's the growth and that prepares you for the next level. You can't move to the next level being in the same mindset or having the same characteristics or the same habits. So I love that.
You know what, woman of God, like as you were speaking, God was telling me, I was thinking of scripture, that the race is not given to the swift, neither the battle to the strong, but to him that endured to the end. And it's our perception of things, no matter what, at the end of the day, when the dust settles, we are going to win. And like you said, we always think of winning as being the number one, the first.
Right.
But that's not always winning. Mm-hmm. Because the person that and one thing God let me know as I have walked with God, and the scripture comes to mind, the first shall be last and the last shall be first.
That's right.
I don't care if you at the back of the line. That's right. And the number one person got this many platforms and they got this many resources and doors and opportunities. God will shift that thing. Mm-hmm. And you being at the end, you thought you was losing, you thought you had lost hope, your opportunity was gone. God will push you to the forefront. That's right. And what took others years to get there, God will shift it.
That's right.
And I just thank God for that. I'm telling you, that script, that sermon was profound for me. It sticks with me.
That's so awesome. I love it. It's so encouraging, and it reminds me of like years ago when I was in school. I was in the lunch line and they were serving whatever they were serving, put it on people's plate and send it on down the line. And about 3 or 4 people ahead of me, whatever, they ran out. So they had to get whatever else was left.
Right.
And by the time I got up to it, they brought out a fresh pan of whatever it was. So I got the first scoop of the fresh batch.
Fresh batch.
That's how it is when God rewards his people.
Yeah.
For their position. Hold your position. You don't have to skip the line and try to tap people on the shoulder. They turn around and you move in front of them.
Come on.
You don't have to trip them up and run past them.
Come on.
Stay right where God told you to stay.
Yes.
There's a reason for it. Love it. Yes. Let me quit my mess and move on. Woo, I love it.
Yes.
So, Prophetess, share with us how you balance family life with ministry and working and your time and all of this. How do you manage to balance, if there is a balance?
Now I will say this, and I'll be transparent, and you know I'm big on transparency. I am. I'm most of the time I can find that balance, but there are times, especially with the pandemic and everything in life, the balance sometimes get a little more on this side than this side.
Yeah. So
what I try to do is I try to set the time aside. I'm a stickler for making what do you call it? Reminders. I put reminders in my Echo Dots. I put reminders in my phone. I like to be in or like things in order, and I like to try to cover all my bases without having something neglected or someone neglected. So I definitely try to set that time aside. When I'm in the morning, working early in the morning, my children are still asleep, I try to get my time in with God early and during my day, on my break, on my lunch period, when my kids go to sleep. Try to get those times in. That's my time for God. When I get right off of work, I do my family duties. You know, I try to cook and I try to give my kids time. They want to be under me. They want to watch TV. They want to go outside and play. So I try to find that balance. And my husband and I, being that we both were in ministry and our children are small, and my husband has his little side business he does, our time sometimes just be running to the store, just running to the store together. And while we out, kids at home still sleep, let's stop and have breakfast.
Yeah.
Let's try to spend time. And I've learned, and it's funny you say that, because I was telling my sister the other day, or I was telling my husband, I believe, people make time for what they want to make time for. I've learned that on the other side, not being the person to having to make the time, but I learned that wondering why nobody spending time with me, or as a kid, I learned it. You know what I'm saying? Like as a niece, as a sister, I'm wondering why nobody called, why nobody's there. And I've learned that people make time for what they want to make time for. So I have learned to consciously make the time. Right. I want those people in my life to know that they're important to me. Especially losing someone, and being that I lost my mother, my grandmother, and my cousins, death has a way of putting things in perspective. Yeah. And you'll find out some things just ain't worth it. You know, fussing about the laundry or the dishes or the weeds in the yard, and you realize, okay, I get to them. Not saying that you're supposed to keep your house next, but that's a whole nother subject about the virtuous one. We're gonna leave that alone. Yeah, because my kids know they know I plays no games. But you learn that, okay, well, I got the time. My daughter just turned 13. She's a teenager. I may not have this time back. She want to be under me, and she always wants to be under me. And woman of God, there's something I was like, why this girl always want to be under me? Go find you some friends, go play, go do something, be on your phone, do what teenagers do. But I learned to appreciate that, because it's gonna be a time when she ain't gonna have no time for me. Or she's gonna be so busy with her life and her friends, then I'll be like, where my baby at? And she ain't no baby no more.
That's right.
So I've learned to make time for things. As I get the time, I'm making time.
Right. That makes perfect sense. We have to do what we can do to make life seem like a balance. Yes. So like you said, a little bit here, a little bit there, cram this in while we're doing that.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
I think we all can understand that and agree to that as well. So I have about 2 more questions. So the next one is, what would people be surprised to know about you?
That I was a shy person. I was mega shy. I mean, to a fault. It wasn't until I got into my late 20s, early 30s that, like me talking now, it wouldn't 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able. I'd be too shy to do it, too fearful to do it.
Right.
Even the shows that I do, I would never have done it. Never. I was always, and sometimes that shyness is still there because I believe it or not, even God has a funny way of trying to tell you who you really are, because you think you one thing and God will show you, nah, you was meant to be something else. But I'm that person that likes to stay in the background. I don't care to be seen. I don't care about the spotlight. I don't need the stage. I'm gonna do God's work whether people see me or not.
Right.
But sometimes in the call that I am, being a prophet, and God will have you speak to people, it puts you in the forefront.
Right.
But I was always shy as a kid. And a lot of things I went through negatively because I was shy, picked on, bullied, left out. People thought my sister was the oldest and I am the oldest because I didn't speak up. Our characters are totally different. She's a very boisterous person. But people wouldn't, when I tell people I used to be shy, they're like, no, you want girl, stop playing. But I was definitely shy. And what started the process of me breaking out of the shell, when the church I had grew up in, got saved in, they gave me the job to do offertory scriptures at the podium in front of the church. The same scripture every Sunday. And it was only me that did. And I learned to memorize it, but I learned slowly to get over the fear. Then when I got in high school, when I was in late high school, I decided to sign up for the debate team, and I learned to be in gospel choir. I started to try to break out of my shell because I was definitely a shy person. That trial sermon, and amazingly, the trial sermon, I wasn't shy on the trial sermon, but I was a little, shaking my boots. It was my first time, but people don't believe that I was shy. Wow. Now I find a shy person. I be like, come here, baby, give me a hug. You ain't got to be scared. Come on. What's your name? How you feel? How you had church today? I go to that person, try to bring them out this shit. You ain't got to be shy. I used to be shy just like you. We all family. Come on, don't worry about us. You ain't met nobody. Try to get them through, because sometimes you could be shy and that shyness will hinder you. It would definitely hinder you. And I thank God I went through a lot of things, good and bad, but it brought me out of that. And I thank God for that, because now I feel I have a voice.
That is so awesome. And your reassuring them will help them to find their voice.
Yes.
Be more obedient to God because they have that confidence. That's
awesome. That confidence. That's what it is.
Exactly. So last question. If you could ask any one person in the Bible a question, who would it be? And what would you ask them?
Well, I would always want to ask Jesus first. Jesus is like the number one.
Oh, yeah.
I would always want to ask Jesus. I mean, I don't know, because I was that kid that asked all the questions when I was little. I'm talking about to the point where your mama like, you need to stop talking. You're doing too much talking. Be quiet. You asking too many questions. You talking too much. You're telling too much. So I couldn't even find the one question that I would want to ask Jesus, but it would definitely be Jesus. But if I had a runner-up, it would be Paul. And I would ask Paul, I mean, I know it's worth it and everything, but I would just ask him, I can't even think of all the questions, because when I began to think, like, I asked him, was he lonely? I mean, there was times in the Bible where he said that he was left alone, that Mark and them left him and he was by himself. And I know it was worth it, because he said he cried, he counted his life as dung, and to live for Christ is gain. But I would just want to ask them, they personal experience, what they felt like working for the Lord. Like, did they ever get discouraged? Ask Jesus, I want to ask Jesus so many questions, like, God, well, what happened when this happened, God? Back then, when, all this stuff, we want to ask God, got a whole list. I couldn't find I cannot pinpoint the exact question that I would ask, because I would have a list of questions. I'd be like the kid at Christmas time with the Santa Claus. I would have the whole list, just running through the questions, and nobody else would get to ask their question.
Oh, well, hey, they should have got in line before you.
They should have got in line before me.
Exactly.
I was like, I could be last. I could wait. I could wait, because I got a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. Exactly. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Prophetess, tell the people how they can reach you if they on social media, if they want to reach out to you.
Definitely. So I am on Facebook as Prophetess Natisha Wilson and Natisha Wilson. On Instagram as Prophetess Natisha Wilson. Twitter at Natisha E. Wilson. Mm-hmm. So you guys definitely reach me there. Also email Natisha E. Wilson 1, the number 1 at yahoo.com or new ministries stl@gmail.com. It's a lot of ways they can reach me. They definitely can reach me. I'm definitely available for any engagements, anything really. I mean, I'm one of those people, not necessarily to be seen, but just to want to do the work of God. I'm one of the people I want to touch other people's lives and help somebody to find their voice and help somebody find their calling, help push the vision. If I got to be one of the people to help build the wall, I love to do the work. I love to do the work. I definitely do. And if it's nothing but just asking me to pray, inboxing, you need some prayer. There have been times people have inboxed me, and I'm telling you, woman of God, from France, from Africa, London, and they just want prayer. They really want prayer, and I thank God for that I have that life where I'm not one of the people just say, okay, I pray for them, but I'm literally laying on my face and standing in the gap with them and praying for them and checking back with them. Well, what's your praise report? But if that, I am definitely available for those things if God say the same.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Do you have any closing remarks or any thoughts you want to share with the people?
I am just grateful. I am grateful that God would even consider me. I'm just a servant. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you could take away the title. Mm-hmm. You could take away all the glory that we think come with it. I'm just a servant. And I just want to do what pleases God and to help the people of God. I love the people of God. I absolutely have a heart for the people of God. And I would want the people to know to just be encouraged. Sometimes just be encouraged, be yourself, mm-hmm. Be confident, knowing that that one scripture has helped me through the years is being confident of this very thing. He that begun a good work in you shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. And I would just want to encourage the people of God that no matter what it looks like, no matter where you at, it shall come to pass. What God spoke to you, what he has prophesied, what he has promised you, the promise it's not gone unnoticed. The prayers have not been unheard. God is going to perform what he said he's going to do. And I just, if I could just tell the people, God, I have a book, Prophecy Unleashed. Okay. It is on Amazon. And if you guys are willing, let me see if I got notes in my little book right here. My own book, I write notes. But Prophecy Unleashed, it is on Amazon.com. Prophetess Natisha Wilson, Prophecy Unleashed, Truth Revealed. And it is just my journey to help anybody who feel like they've been called of God or don't know their purpose, to just help them, to just find their voice, hear the voice of God, and learn how to be sensitive to God. And a lot of people, one thing I would say, woman of God, before we go, a lot of people always ask me, well, Prophetess, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my call. How do I know my purpose? You got to spend time with God. Right. In order to hear from God. Mm-hmm. How can you know what God sounds like if you don't spend time with him? When you spend time with him, then you can hear from him. Mm-hmm. And you will know your purpose. He will speak to you, your purpose, your call. So I just want to tell the people, God, be blessed. Stay in the will of God. Hold fast. Keep holding on. No matter what. Don't let go. Don't let go. So I just thank you, woman of God, for even having me on your show today. I am so excited. Every time we get together, it's like old friends just pick up right where we left off. And I just thank God for you, for letting God use you in such the capacity that he does. And I know this is only the beginning. I'm just amazed that our paths crossed, and I thank God for that.
I'm amazed as well, and I am grateful for the opportunity to connect with you again, and for the people to hear what you have to say. I'm so sure that somebody has questions and you have the answers, and that's what is all about sometimes, just getting the answers that we have been seeking, and to get that reassurance that God has not forgotten about us. And those who are willing vessels will be willing and let him speak through them. That's so encouraging. That's so encouraging. So thank you once again for coming on, Prophetess Wilson. We do appreciate you stopping by. And you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this interview as much as I have. And be sure to go to Amazon.com and check out Prophecy Unleashed, and check her out and follow her on social media. And her shows are dynamite. Go to Facebook, and her shows are on Facebook. You can go to her page and listen to the awesome information that she is sharing, that the Lord has given to her. And we thank you for stopping by once again. And hopefully, if everything works out accordingly, there'll be a project that we'll be working on together, and you can get some real deal Holyfield information from her, what it's like to be Prophetess Natisha Wilson. So that's about it for this particular episode of About Her Ministry. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Be sure to release your genius, pull off the impossible every day, and let's be glamorous, godly girls.